Hello, and welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast. I'm Stephanie May Potter, and I'm here with my co-host, Marnie Marmet.
We created the Art of Living Well podcast to empower you to live your happiest, healthiest, and most authentic life. Each week, we will bring you inspiring and motivating conversations covering health and wellness topics, including fitness, mindset, food, travel, product reviews, and strategies from a variety of experts, including our own bank of knowledge.
We are excited to educate, motivate, and inspire you to change the way you perceive health and discover your art of living well. Get ready to feel inspired. Hi, before we jump right into today's conversation, we wanted to share a couple of important updates. We are starting our own Art of Living Well book club, and we would love for you to join us in reading the last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read by Andre Kap, who was on episode number 45 of our podcast, and we'll be hosting a discussion on the book on November 12th at 11:30 Central Time, and you can click the link in the show notes to sign up for this free event. And then the next update is an exciting program that we just developed. It's a 30-day Thrive During the Holiday Season program, and it's going to run from November 16th to December 13th. And it's going to be all about staying festive, fun, and feeling fabulous during this holiday season, which I know is going to look and feel very different than it has in years past. But it'll be a private community where you will receive mindset tips, recipes, weekly lives, and so much more with a group of other like-minded people. And we would absolutely love to have you join us. And you can head on over to the link in the show notes and, of course, message us or reach out with any questions. And then finally, we would love for you to rate and review this podcast. If you are enjoying these episodes, please head over to Apple Podcast and give the Art of Living Well podcast a rating and review. Doing so really helps our podcast get found in searches so that more people can benefit from the information and all of the interviews that we share. And of course, if you're enjoying an episode, please feel free to share it with anyone you think may benefit from the information and tag us on social media. And now let's jump right into today's conversation.
All right, welcome to the Jordan and John podcast. No, this is still the Art of Living Well podcast. But you got John and Jordan talking first. And we were just chatting, reflecting on our own marriages or spouses, how we met them, the salt and pepper concept. I don't know, Jordan, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking this is off to a salty start.
Oh, wow. Let's add some spice to that with some pepper. The complementary nature of those two things, they go together well, but they are definitely not the same. And nor is this podcast, because it's a bonus episode, and we've hijacked it from the ladies.
So how did you meet?
It's funny. I had to leave the country to meet Stephanie. Two Americans stuck in London, but it's a great place to meet working as young 20-somethings. And, it stuck. Got great experiences early and great experiences since. How about you guys?
So we met way back when. We were in our freshman year of college, and we're next door neighbors in our dorm. And started dating, 2 months into the school year?
4th.
Yeah. So
that's our anniversary. That's our real anniversary.
Our real anniversary, if you want to call it a real anniversary.
Were you quarantined?
Our date-iversary. We were not quarantined at the time. There was no COVID. This was way
days,
before
you can
COVID.
meet outside of quarantine.
Right. No kidding. Very different freshman year experience than the kids that are having today.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we were young and dated for a long time and had our ups and downs and made it through and got married, did live abroad as well. Spent 4 years in Israel while I was in med school and survived that. Made it back to lovely Minnesota.
But Jordan, you're not from here, right?
I'm not. I'm from California originally, but I'd like to say I escaped after high school. It's a lovely place to visit.
Exactly. And neither John nor I are from Minnesota. We're both transplants, so.
Yeah, we're transplants.
Yeah.
From the East Coast, different places, right?
I struggle to think Rochester, New York is on the East Coast, but that's where Stephanie's from. I am from, in fact, the East Coast in New Jersey. Grew up on the Jersey Shore.
And you may see a little bit of the Jersey coming out during this episode, too. So
I've been mellowing slowly. I'm from New Jersey to Chicago to Minnesota. Talk about going from aggressive to passive aggressive. That's quite a transition.
Oh boy.
What I want to know is, how do you say orange juice?
Depends on who I'm talking to. I can go from like water is a great example.
Yeah.
Because water is actually water, which is water. 3 words, the same thing. Depends on where you are. But my friends in Jersey still say, hey, get some water. What?
Or
It's no
orange
you.
juice.
Orange,
Yeah.
Chicago, New Jersey, Minnesota.
You wear your
So
sneakers.
You haven't picked up any Queen's English, though, I notice.
Only when I have to, having lived there during the primary Harry Potter moment in
Which is
history.
awesome.
There was a lot of times people would ask me, actually, when I say, my last name is English, right? Potter. But in England, if you say Potter, they think you say putter. So I had to say Potter. So they would understand how to spell Potter.
But it's very funny. I mean, if you were ever checking in at a hotel, yeah, John Potter.
Yeah, John Potter. They're like, putter, we don't have a putter. I'm like, Potter. Oh, yes, Mr. Potter. You just sing it a little bit, Sound of Music then comes back where you kind of sing along everything. And I can only sing one note. I'm a strict monotone, so it doesn't really carry beyond that one.
We will not be singing on this episode for sure.
Unless you want to end early.
Yeah.
So why are we having you guys on the show? It's because all of our audience is dying to hear who we're married to, right?
And what they really want to know is, do they eat as healthy as their wives? And did you eat healthy before you met each of us?
Or do you not eat healthy?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a wide range of concepts included in that question. But I'll start with one interesting contrast. I grew up, my mom in particular, my family, everything was made from scratch. We were not a processed food box family. So to me, eating always was oriented around whole foods, original ingredients, starting from scratch. And I learned to cook from my mom. And thus, I always learned how to cook based on putting ingredients together. Not a lot of pre-done ingredients. So that's how I cook. Now, what ingredients I use and their origins and whether they're organic and other things are things I've learned from my spouse or focused on more as she's learned more about these things and the importance of those. But to me, that notion of being able to know all the components of what you're eating has always been fundamental to me. She's definitely augmented some of the components, which has been good, in the learning curve.
Yeah. I mean, one of the first conversations we had around cooking was the taco seasoning, and my mom just always bought the package and you dumped it all in.
Like El Paso or
Yes.
one of those.
And he was like, what are you doing? And he gets all the spices and makes his own. And I remember clearly you telling me that you'd never had brownies in your house that your mom made that were made out of a box. And that's I thought the only way to make a brownie, so. And here we are. But what about you, Jordan?
So I grew up definitely not eating as healthy as we eat now, but it's been a journey, and a good one. And we eat a lot less meat and a lot less processed foods, a lot more vegetarian. I did introduce Marnie to tofu when we were 19, 20, something like that.
I didn't know what it was even.
So I have some California, in me.
Yes.
But I'd say we eat pretty healthy now. You eat
we.
healthier than I do, for sure. But we've made changes slow and steady, which I think is the way to do it, right? That's the coaching that we get, slow and steady, and I enjoy my food, and that's most important, right?
Exactly.
I think that the interesting part is about how you introduce different concepts. My mom's from California. I have a definite influence from the California side. But the notion, we took a trip on our way back from being abroad. We were in Thailand, and we took a cooking class, and it was first of all, I love Thai food, but the balancing of the 4 key elements: salty, savory, sweet, and spicy. And if the 4 things are in balance, it usually leads to success in what you're cooking. But it starts with knowing the fundamental things you need to do to affect those. So one of the things I introduced to Stephanie was spicy. Relative to where she had started, which I know I joke in Minnesota, ketchup is not spicy. It's actually just a base condiment. But also some of the more stronger flavors like garlic, which is now, it's a phenomenal food, but also something that, unless you enjoy it, it's something people can be very versed to. And learning to try new things, whether it be mushrooms or, beets. Beets is something I never liked as a kid. Now, they're phenomenal. Could be the goat cheese that goes with it, but still, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But when you roast them at home and they're so fresh, it's like candy.
But I will have to say, to give you credit, you're the one that taught me how to cook. I may have been part of the ingredients and finding the recipes and eating more vegetables and that sort of thing, but you definitely, the skills around cooking, I have to give you 100% credit.
But that's where it's funny, because we're definitely different types of cooks. You're the chemist, which is also why you're a better baker than me, and I'm the creative side, which is funny because she'll say, well, that was great, what'd you put in it? I'm like, I don't know, I was just cooking. And you're very precise around, well, we got to be able to recreate it, and so the more specific, which I think you get from your mom. Your mom was definitely on she taught
more
chemistry
baking,
to begin with, but she was very precise on the chemical reactions and the specifics, where I'm more intuitive, which makes a good compliment. Also hard to
back
align
to the salt and pepper.
Well, and I don't think either of us were particularly good cooks coming into this relationship, in all honesty. But he's definitely more precise, and I'm more like, I don't like following recipes. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not a good baker, although I'm learning. I've gotten better since COVID. Very recently.
Well, I will say we did explore the sourdough starter.
Yep.
And
Nice.
we successfully baked one batch.
Oh.
I'll say success, meaning it was baked, wouldn't exactly rise. And then we proceeded to kill our sourdough starter.
Yeah.
So we're not very good at nurturing things that require feeding once a month.
Yeah.
We might try it again, though. I do like.
I think this winter we could
If we have to go into the house again for months,
Yeah.
it would be a good thing to try again.
For sure.
Right?
That's a fun COVID hobby.
Yeah.
I think,
It had the potential for it.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. So, have you guys learned anything from us and our health and wellness journeys?
Well, absolutely. I look back at some of the things and the concepts that Stephanie's introduced, things she's talked about, even the discussion around new information and what helps shape your perspective on the choices you make. Because a lot of these are choices, and they're on a spectrum of, is there an absolute yes or no? For most things, not necessarily. But is there a better or worse, this much or that much? How do you moderate, et cetera? I think that's where you start to realize the impacts of choices, and then making a series of choices that cumulatively create better balance. Right? And that's why, Stephanie and I do eat differently. Right? What the balance that I'm trying to seek and the balance she seeks are different, but it doesn't mean either is necessarily right or wrong. They can coexist. And to the discussion earlier, especially when I was traveling for work, I had more opportunities to make unique choices, which I would tell her I was making often quite consistent with a lot of the things that she would do. You might have been a little skeptical at times. But since I haven't gone anywhere in 6 months, my eating choices have been very consistent with Stephanie's. Because we eat every meal together.
Uh-huh.
Jordan, what have you learned?
I'd say I've really learned a ton from you, Marnie. I would say we cook a lot ourselves. We're making, using whole ingredients. We, as I mentioned before, a lot less on the meat side. We're doing a lot of plant-based foods, plant-based proteins. I did a detox with you about 6 months ago. I know, John, you've done a couple detoxes already, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a challenging week. It was a week when I gave up caffeine, which was a crutch of mine. I think I was a caffeine addict, having a couple cups of coffee a day, and was able to kick that habit.
A couple cups.
A couple cups
it was
a day.
7 cups.
No, not 7.
But that's okay.
Maybe more like 3. Maybe 3 large ones.
3 huge cups.
That's a couple pints.
Right.
So I think, from that perspective, from the balance perspective, it's still a journey, trying to get more sleep, trying to get more balance. But I've learned a ton from you, Martin.
So talking about sleep a little bit, I know that's something that Marnie and I discuss quite frequently, and I know I'm a big sleep stickler in our house. I have been since the kids were born. I was reading books on sleep when they were like infants.
I was sleeping when she was reading those books.
For sure. But what are your sleep patterns similar? Because Marnie and I talk about, going to bed around 10 and waking up by 6 and sort of getting on that cycle. But Yeah, why don't you guys share what you're...
Yeah, why don't you share, Jordan? I'm interested to hear your answer.
So I'm still going to work when Marnie's going to bed. I'm still logging some hours, but that's some of my effective time. I get less sleep than Marnie for sure, but I don't think I need quite as much sleep as you do. I probably need more than I'm currently getting, but less than Marnie. I think I would be fine with a midnight to 6 kind of schedule. 6 hours of sleep would probably be good, but I often get less than that.
I'm more in the midnight to 8 category, partially because,
During quarantine, I think.
Well, yes, that it afforded me the option of sleeping till 8, but when you have a 30-second commute, it's pretty easy that way. But, part of it is also the wind down time and the relaxation time and just letting your mind unwind on things. Sometimes, like, I'd often find that I'd go from work to kids' activities, then back to work, and then unwinding. I think this is certainly in the past 6 months is a little bit less of that iteration. But no, Stephanie's definitely asleep before I am, and awake before I am in the morning.
Yes, but
something to improve on.
Exactly.
You guys could stay up later.
I mean, he's working, so it's not like we'd be hanging out.
We're still on season 2 of Game of Thrones, so we could throw in
some Outlander and see how that changes things for you.
Yeah. So how do you like unsolicited advice from Marnie, Jordan?
Oh, I love unsolicited advice, Stephanie. I ask for it regularly.
I'm sure you
and
do.
So then it's solicited.
I should have asked the question, do you give any? Because now I'm just making the assumption that she just doses it out there.
Yeah, it's funny because I asked for her not to give me any more unsolicited advice, so it still remains unsolicited. The difference between being a spouse and being a coach is real, and I think that's usually the conversation we're having. There's spouses have the ability to be honest and direct, but then also to bring in that same compassion and caring, because it's the passion that I know Stephanie and Marnie have around the topics, but also in the balance that it's in the context of a relationship versus a professional coaching experience. I think it's one of the things we strike the balance on. And I push back when hardline coach shows up as opposed to, loving spouse. And she pushes back when, she's like, are you making that choice just to spite me? I'm like, no, I'm making that choice because this is really good.
Well, it's just like anything else. You're harder on those people that you love, that you live with, that you spend the most time with. And that's a work in process for me, for sure.
I think it
the
is
ruler
for
on the
me
back
too.
of my hand, though, that was harsh.
I really like that distinction you made, though, because I haven't heard that. Like, we haven't discussed it like that, coach versus spouse. That's a really good distinction.
Mm-hmm.
So who is it when I get back from the grocery store? Is that coach or is that spouse?
Depends what you come home with.
Exactly.
He did a really good job at Costco today, I have to say. Usually it's like
I will
chocolate
say,
candies and all the crazy stuff comes home. And
John just will leave that stuff in the garage.
I unpack faster to avoid inspection. Everything gets put away, and the things I wanted to see, those are on the counter.
Yeah.
Everything else is away.
Yeah. Totally.
And I'm just really glad he didn't come back with like non-food items that we don't need.
We get that quite a bit too.
Yeah.
You can't go to Costco without an impulse purchase. It's like a Target run,
Yes, for us.
Surprise and delight of Costco. That's the merchandising strategy.
I know.
So, John, what's your favorite date night?
Ooh. I'll reflect back. What's interesting about our relationship is our first date nights we're two 20-something Americans living in London.
Amazing.
So a date was comprised of, things that are pretty cool and pretty unique. Right? A weekend was comprised of a trip to places that you don't even think about as being conceivable. And so, I think transitioning from dating as singles to dating as a married couple is generally a hard enough transition. Layering in the fact that our starting point was something that was pretty cool, and it was great to experience that together. But honestly, to me, an ideal date night today is something that allows the two of us to have a conversation without talking logistics and operations.
Yes.
Something that's quiet and peaceful, could be on the back patio if possible, could be in our kitchen, it could be in our dining room, it could be in a restaurant, it could be anywhere where we can just step away from the operations of our life into just living in that moment. And I think living in the moment, the concept of wandering is something we try to work in on trips and different moments. Like we were in Italy for spring break with the kids 2 years ago, and we didn't overschedule. We said, let's just wander. We would walk all day without having just that scheduled regimen. So a lot of times, one-on-one conversations become logistics, and we try to focus on how to make them just like living, which includes not talking about the Art of Living Well podcast.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful answer.
Thanks. Did I read the script
So
right?
This is way off script, guys.
So how did we come to calling this one the Salt and Pepper podcast? Because I thought it was that I'm turning more salt than pepper these days.
Well, you both are actually.
Yeah, we are.
I think you're a little ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you're both
barely ahead of the
barely,
race.
yeah.
Yep. Well, so we have a funny story about Salt and Pepper because we got married. We were living in London and we decided to get married in Hilton Head, and we hired a wedding planner. And we went down there for our first visit. Neither one of us has ever been to Hilton Head, by the way. We decided to do a destination wedding there. And within the first day or two, she's like, she had this great, Serena, had this great accent, Southern accent that I won't be able to get right. But she's like, you guys are so cute. You go together like salt and pepper. So each one of us is obviously very unique, and, and sometimes we're more aligned than other times.
There's a little bit too much salt in the dish.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little bit too much pepper in the dish.
And sometimes it's just right.
Sometimes it's just right.
Sometimes you order takeout.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was just it's sort of that yin yang balance, right?
Yeah. We're back to the Thai, salty, sweet, spicy, and sour.
Exactly.
So bringing all the elements in balance.
Yes. If there's too much salt and too much pepper, it's not a good combination.
So is there a similar analogy for the Art of Living Well? So are you two like celery and carrots, or fresh and crunchy?
Kale and spinach. I mean, what do you want? Yeah.
Blueberry and radish.
We haven't gotten there yet. We'll have to explore that. That'll be a topic for another podcast episode.
An interesting thought.
Exactly. So Jordan, what's your favorite place, or where would you want to retire one day?
So I love Minnesota, and it's a great place, and I love it. I don't love it as much come February, maybe March. It's a little too much cold. So I don't know that I can picture living somewhere else year round, though. I would love to have a wintertime getaway. Mountains, I'm thinking maybe Colorado. Love Colorado. But retirement is a far way away for us. I like living in the present and enjoying the time we have.
That's such a good answer, because we don't have an obvious pick either. When people ask that of us,
and I don't see us having one place that we keep going back to. I feel like we could travel, rent a place in January in Hawaii, in February skiing, and
we're totally the same way, though.
Well, I'm not. Somebody said, "What's your favorite food?" I don't have favorites, right? We were lucky enough to live in Europe and travel quite a bit. What was your favorite place? I don't have favorites. Things aren't better and worse; they're different, and that difference and that experience, that exploring, that wandering, is a phenomenal aspect. And as much as I appreciate the roots and tradition of having a place you always go to, Minnesota cabins are a great example. I grew up in New Jersey. We're in the Jersey Shore at a shore house, right? And phenomenal traditions and attachment to it. But at the same time, the exploration of all these things that are out there that are new and different. That's what I think about as well. What is going to be a great way to spend my time? And how do I balance that love of having that place that you can call your own, that you enjoy and you go back to, versus that exploration and wandering of the things that you don't get to see every day. There's a great article in the New York Times this weekend about the uptick in Vermont real estate during COVID. And, the population of some of these towns is quadrupled. And they look like phenomenal towns, but the culture and the community of those towns are so different than the population that are now living there. right? And the influx of it was, it was fascinating to explore. But then what permanent effect are you having on a community when you change it that much, that drastically, right? And I think that, we're all stewards and citizens of this place. And how do you be present without leaving your fingerprints on things that really aren't yours, and yet immerse yourself in part of a community that you want to join? Like, the world's complex. I just love exploring it.
That's awesome. I do too. We do too.
And hopefully we're all
Well
going to get to
said.
explore it
Yeah.
soon. Again.
There's so many places I still want to go. So.
I know.
Better open up soon. So, John, if you started a restaurant, what food would you serve?
Well, given my inability to pick a favorite when it comes to food and cuisine, and my love of cooking, we've learned to cook a variety. While I've loved to cook a variety of cuisines, Stephanie's the one who really delved into learning how to cook Indian cuisine, which is a very different and complex set of flavors and ingredients. But yet, once we got into that, I'm like, we can learn all these things. That world culture, that notion of being able to serve things that are fresh and local and seasonal, that are inspired by whatever the day is or the mood is. Like, to me, that would be an awesome experience. As much as I love going to a restaurant that fits my mood, I would love to have a restaurant that conveyed the mood of the moment. That would be really hard for most customers because, if they want Italian and I was, the mood that day was Indian, they're not going to be too happy with Shea Potter, right?
Right.
But at the same time, as a restaurateur, as someone who's, if I'm part of that restaurant, you want it in a place where people love and they love what they're doing and they're thriving in it, because that's going to carry over to whoever's eating there and experiencing it. So, I don't know.
Well,
I think you
that's
just came
like-
up with a new
what's-
concept right
what's-
there.
No, in Robbinsdale, what's it called? I'm blanking on the
Travail.
name.
Oh,
Travail.
Travail.
Travail
Yeah.
kind of does that, where they, this.
You're
mom
putting your
thinks-
hands you're
faith.
putting your faith in the hands of the chefs.
Yeah.
And I have a huge respect for that. I think about the creativity, the passion, and the purpose in that. The fact that you're making things not like you did yesterday, but like it's supposed to be made today, because today you're making what today requires.
Mm-hmm.
That in the moment essence is, to me would be awesome, but would also require a great team because I'm just a home chef.
Right. That's awesome.
So shifting gears a little bit, Jordan, I know Marnie is like obsessed with the Peloton and loves the bike and the app and all the workouts. Well, what's your workout routine look like these days?
So it could be a little better, I'll be honest, but I enjoy biking and I do use Peloton some. I love to be outdoors biking, and it's been a little while since I was in a more running, swimming routine. I had been doing some triathlons, but it's getting a little ways away
10
from
years
that.
ago?
It's been a while. not 10 years, but it's
far
been a
out.
while.
So
So
Arnie, you get on the the birthday list. Let's get a big fan to put in the Peloton so you can feel like the wind's going past you. Especially for December and January, that'll probably be better.
That's awesome.
that'll work well, right?
Maybe it's like a mural on the side. Looks like you're like biking through the mountains or something.
What about you, John?
Our workout routines are very different. Stephanie has. It's interesting as I've look at how Stephanie's developed what her current workout routine is versus what she has done over time. I would say we, aside from family bike rides together, we generally don't have the same workouts.
A little tennis, but that's sort of until you get just annoyed with me or we're not at the same level.
Yes, I'm great.
So-
I will run 10 miles chasing a yellow ball, but it's hard to just run 10 miles.
Yes, Stephanie said you play tennis and golf.
Yeah, and but again, I need to like running. I grew up as a swimmer, so gravity was never my friend, right? I always lived in a semi-gravity neutral and buoyant environment. So the pounding of running and the monotony of it, which is funny because swimming is a fairly monotonous activity,
Yeah.
which is probably why I'm adverse to monotonous activities. But I'll chase a ball like you can't believe, and I'm the best golden retriever out there when you put a yellow ball on the court. But tell me to go run shuttle sprints for an hour, doesn't work.
No. Yeah. Okay, so Jordan, what do you do for fun? What's your fun or passion, hobby when you're not working?
when I'm not working, I enjoy doing things outdoors. So Marnie and I will go, we'll hike together, we'll bike, walk around the neighborhood. We have a puppy, a COVID puppy who we got. I don't know if you talked about her earlier on the episode, but taking her on adventures has been fun. So doing those things, and then connecting with friends together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a guy's guy. Right?
If you say so.
We won't go in there right now.
But is that unsolicited advice?
Or an unsolicited opinion. Maybe. Yeah.
What about you, John? What do you like to do for fun?
I'm social by nature, as is Stephanie. I like spending time with our mutual friends. I like spending time with our respective friends. I don't know if this is a guy thing, but I don't spend the time talking about stuff and on the phone and other things with friends that are more remote, but I'm in the moment. So it's whether it's playing golf, playing tennis, there's a couple of friends that you're just spending half an hour catching up or just being social. I certainly enjoy getting out and doing activities with the kids, especially as they get older and they're more able to do these activities, right? So whether it's biking or, again, tennis and golf are great lifetime activities that you can do. Or even, I've been coaching lacrosse more, and I'm a much more able lacrosse player than I was when my oldest son started playing. Yeah, it's fun just to get out there and do that with them. And obviously Stephanie and I, we play tennis together and get on the bike and try to do frequent walks with our dog. But the schedule doesn't always work on that at the same time frame. So
we're working on it. But I'd say you love to cook, and cook for friends too, as far as passions and other things.
Wasn't that a different question?
Oh, just hobbies. It's an interest that you have.
Oh, creative outlets. I love to cook. I mean, cooking is one of my primary creative outlets. And actually, that's one of the funnest things to do. When we're sitting there at like 4 o'clock on a Sunday, and Stephanie turned to me, she's like, "I have no idea what we're doing for dinner, and we have nothing in the house." Well, I'm like, challenge. Yeah. All right, I have 45 minutes to come up with something phenomenal based on the premise that we have nothing in the house and no idea what to do. But to me, that's fun. Like, what can I do?
Yeah. Well, I like giving you, here are all the vegetables that we have, what can you do with it? And you love that challenge. There's like a whole cooking show on that, isn't there?
And we've transformed our Sunday brunch into, it built on the concept that our kids kept wanting something more along the lines of a hash or kind of the traditional potato-based hash.
Uh-huh.
And so then I kind of took that concept and I'm like, all right, well, I can get us in that direction, but let's change the components. Right, and so now, over the course of the summer, we're doing a Sunday, egg bake hash it was phenomenal. I kept every week was different, which of course Stephanie's like, wait, it's not what was last week. Like, you're right. She's like, what's different? I'm like, I don't know.
I want to write it down.
This is my moment now.
So are you using real potatoes and?
We've shifted from Japanese potatoes to Japanese sweet potatoes to Japanese sweet potatoes to. No potatoes and black beans.
Time.
Just different.
And you're
different
putting
things.
it all together with eggs and into the oven?
No, I'll do it all in a skillet, work it down, and then just
put the oil.
And then put some eggs on it, and we're all good. I think the key to cooking with oil is just don't overcook things.
Yeah. Well, we had we heard a different story earlier today.
Oh, I already briefed him a little bit on that.
Yeah, I haven't told him about it yet. Anyway, so anything else?
I'm of the French school.
Okay.
So how has the pandemic changed your routines or changed your lives?
I've said this before, and I've said this on the podcast. I think there's been many silver linings, and I think it's been good for our family. And the kids are getting busy again a little bit, but overall, it's been good to slow down. I love family dinners, and I actually get a little crabby if 4 or 5 nights go by, and then I know he's going to travel, and we don't get a family dinner. That is just really important to me, and so we've been able to do that a lot more now. Not as much as of late, but that's just something that's been important, and just having more family time together, and more time that you and I are home. We need to take advantage of that now that the kids are in school 2 days a week that are actually
Thursday,
leaving
Friday.
the house.
all of our kids are in school on Thursday and Friday. So Thursday and Friday becomes a much more peaceful day in the house because just Stephanie and I for the majority of the day. Like last week, we had lunch together out in the patio.
And we had tofu, and you said you really liked it. It was
she did
during
a really
the
good
detox.
job on the tofu. It was a phenomenal salad. Mondays and Tuesdays are hectic because all three kids are hybrid from home at the moment. Wednesdays, only two of them are at home, but I think you learn to appreciate. In general, I'd say COVID has taught us to appreciate moments that we didn't appreciate. Be it moments at work that you no longer have, being interactions that you have to do differently, be it travel that you used to loathe all the travel you did, but now you appreciate the travel you didn't do that you really enjoyed, right? And we'll come back, we're on a pendulum, we'll come back to some different place than where we are now, but you have a greater appreciation for it. The people that you can't see as often as you would have, or in the ways you would have, you appreciate and cherish that time more. And I think, for us, it's very much that. I mean, our siblings, like our kids all got closer, and then they got too close. And then, and then
now they need a break.
Now they need a break from each other.
Which is natural, right?
But we've got two boys that are 5 years apart, and seeing how they were able to use that time to grow their bond better, right? We've got a girl in the middle who, as the girl in the family, you want to cherish and protect, and you've got two boys around her who are just intent on being chaos. And trying to seek their own attention. So, you navigate it, and in the end, I think it's been great for all of them.
Yeah. But what about you guys?
So we had a son who was home from college for a chunk of the time, and it was time that we sort of earned back with him, right? Time that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So that was really special. I think it's really just made us slow down, and I think just that stopping and smelling the roses and taking care of some projects and, working off the bucket list or picking up our kids, picked up a new hobby or a new instrument, or one of them tried to learn a new language.
Right.
Just trying to find ways to do things that are maybe slower, but, taking a bunch of things off our plate, a bunch of activities that previously were there, sports and activities for the kids. And enjoying each other, and I agree with what you said, John, too, about connecting with people, cherishing the time that you do have. I think I've really enjoyed winning some time back in our lives. So avoiding commute times has been, we don't have very long commutes in Minnesota anyway, but it makes you appreciate when you can just have a Zoom meeting and it's an hour, and at the end of that hour, you're done. Which is kind of nice too.
And we had a ton of family time.
We did.
Yeah.
We had a lot of family time
You took
together.
road trips and trips that you wouldn't have
That's
otherwise
true, too.
had planned, right?
Yes, we did. We took some amazing trips this summer.
Yeah.
And usually we would go somewhere flying, but we drove and had very different experiences, and it opened up a whole new world.
Exactly. And now we're gung-ho on taking that Montana trip next year, so I'm excited about that.
Highly recommend.
I'm excited about being in Montana. You're excited about getting to Montana. So we'll see how the two.
We're not
pieces
road
go
trip
together.
people yet, so we're going to have to figure that
So
out. but-
I was so anti-road trip before COVID. Like, he would always be like, let's take a road trip. And I'm like, nah, I can't be in the car for that long.
Yeah.
We had a great time. Like, it really was not bad. Now, if I had the chance to fly, would I take it over driving? Maybe I would. But I didn't want to not travel.
Right,
So it was either we take a road trip or we don't go anywhere.
right. And you just realized
And
you could do something different
Yeah.
that you overcame.
Well, and I think for me, like, I'm such a planner. And so not planning and doing these amazing trips was really fun and different.
Yeah.
Like, we literally decided like 2 or 3 weeks before we were going to take these trips, and they were great. And I
Right.
didn't plan it 3 months out,
Yeah,
which was awesome.
and you didn't have to, so another
Yeah.
silver lining. Okay, so boys, one question that we end all of our interviews with, that we ask all of our guests, and you are no exception, is what does the art of living well mean to you? So who wants to go first?
Well, it means your business, but no. So I'll be happy to take that first. I think the art of living well to me is about balance and mindful presence, living in the moment. it's about being content with what you have, and I would say being content in all facets of your life. So at home, at work, with family, with friends, and all of that really grounds a person.
Great answer. We love this question.
The art of living well, to me, I look at each of the key words, right? Art. It's not science, it's art. It's a matter of balancing and applying different techniques, different elements, and bringing them together into the mixture or composition that makes whatever it is you're trying to create well, but informed based on knowing what those pieces are. Okay? Living is about being present, being engaged, being part of something, right? Not pulling away and not participating in something, but engaging in a way that you can meaningfully enjoy it and thrive in it. And then well and wellness come together. I'm going to play off the word thrive, but it comes down to, what does well mean in the context of what are you trying to achieve? What are those things that are going to give you that life that is whole, that is complete? And then if you're living it and applying that art that makes it you, then your art of living well is how you bring yourself into living that whole you. So to me, the art of living well is a unique concept to every individual, but it builds on the things that we learn from one another as we draw on what each person brings, so that we each can live our own best life.
Wow. That was very well said.
And there you go.
Well, thank you for having us here today. It was fun.
Well, this was super fun. We'll have to have maybe this is an annual bonus episode that we share.
Or maybe it's more than annual. You guys did a great job.
I know.
I'm not sure why. Jordan and I are starting our own podcast next
week. Well, that's what I was just going to say. I'm like, I hope they don't try to take this over from us.
Seriously, though, thanks so much for coming on today, guys. And
this was fun.
Yeah.
A lot of
thanks
fun.
for joining the Jordan and John podcast. You guys were great. You're wonderful guests.
I hope you have us again soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much for listening to the Art of Living Well podcast. We are so grateful that you joined us today.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or anyone else you think may benefit from this information. We'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, and tag the Art of Living Well podcast on social media.
If you want more inspiration in between episodes, you can find us on social media at theartofliving_well on Instagram and Facebook, where we will share snippets from our daily lives and our journey to living well.